Today I'd like to talk to you about what it is like for someone with a cleft lip or palate to eat. Starting with as a baby, when babies are born with a cleft lip or palate, before the lip is closed, there is a big gap, which I'm sure you've already researched that and seen it. But beyond that, if the palate, which is the roof of the mouth, has a gap or a cleft, it can create a lot of challenges for a baby eating. And a lot of times people think that when their child gets the lip repaired, that everything's going to be fine and they're going to be able to eat normally, and that's not the case, because it is actually, if you see here, this is the palate here, which is the roof of the mouth. And in order for suction to occur, which is what has to happen if a baby is drinking from the breast or drinking from a bottle, this has to be closed. If there's a hole, the air is going to come up in here, and of course the nose is open, so there's no way to create a suction. There's no way to close off the opening so that suction can happen. So when the cleft in the palate is repaired, that is when a baby is able to suck in and hold that pulling motion. When the palate is not repaired and the baby is trying to suckle on a bottle or a breast, not only is the suction hard to produce, but because of that suction, it will pull food into the sinus cavity. Not just the fact that it will get up in there because there's a hole, and when you swallow, your tongue has to push up against the roof of the mouth to allow the motion to push the food down the throat. So when there's a hole here, just the swallowing action can push food up in there. But not only that, but the fact that you're trying to suck in, and that will even help it to lodge food up into the nasal cavity. And this is where the difficulty comes in with liquids for babies. And actually solid foods, even if they're pureed or soft, baby food is actually easier to eat for a baby with a cleft palate, or even an adult. And the sad part is that when the baby gets the palate repaired, it's about 3 weeks that you have to be very, very careful. And what a lot of people report is that their children actually no longer want to drink from the bottle or try to breastfeed, and so it becomes very difficult. And that's the time when they probably should be eating solid foods. But you have to talk to your doctor. You have to consult with your surgeon and make sure you're making the right choice when it comes to that. So now, once the lip and the palate are repaired, there are still challenges, and I want to talk about that next. And they go into adulthood. There is more challenges with the soft palate, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Here is a picture of the side view of the facial features, and you have up here is your nasal cavity. This is the palate right here, and it extends back to here. This is the area that they talk about that is the hard palate. This is more of the soft palate. And this is the tongue. And when you swallow, the food goes in, and the tongue actually is a muscle that pushes everything down. And what happens is this soft palate, there's a flap here, and this flap pushes up, and it literally closes off the space between here and the nasal cavity. And what happens in some people with cleft palates, especially myself, a lot of times what will happen is the palate will not close, the soft palate will not close completely, and food will actually back up in there, and when I swallow, it'll actually get pushed up into the sinus cavity and sit here. And if I can't get it out, it can sit there and fester and cause an infection, and it's very painful. So there's a lot of challenges beyond just being a child, being a baby. Once you get your cleft repaired, even if the hole is sewn up, there's still more challenges that a person with clefts can face. So I hope that I have covered all the bases and I've enlightened you. I hope I've answered some questions, and hopefully I've explained how the suction action works, and you hopefully now you can understand a little better about what your child is going through with a cleft palate, and what they're going through when it comes to the challenges they face in eating. And know that it is an ongoing thing. It's going to be, there's going to be challenges throughout a Cleftie's lifetime. And you just, one of the wonderful things about kids is they're resilient and they adapt. They adapt really well. And as long as you don't pity them, and you don't feel sorry for them, and you don't give them a reason to feel sorry for themselves, they will always find ways to overcome challenges, and they will always find ways to learn to adapt. While we're on the subject of adapting, it's important to remember that your child is going to be born or was born with a cleft lip or a cleft palate or both. And each time they have surgery, not only are they recuperating from the actual surgery, and you know there's going to be pain involved at the site, stitches, things like that, but they're also having to adapt. It's hard for someone who's never had a split in their lip to understand that when a baby gets their lip moved from open to closed, it's a whole new world for them. They have to relearn everything that they've already learned how to do with the split. Same with the palate. So this is probably why a lot of children, not only when they have surgery on the palate, not only do they stop drinking from the bottle. I'm sorry, I'm doing this presidential thing. Anyway, the reason I believe that not only do children stop drinking from the bottle after they've had surgery because of the pain and the healing process that's going on, but they also have to readapt. They're so used to having that hole there, and now that it's been closed up, they're relearning everything. There's also the issue of the soft palate, which we talked about earlier, and that surgery, depending on how far back the cleft is, if the cleft is all the way back in the soft palate, that is affecting that area as well, and that soft palate motion. So you have to realize that adaptation comes constantly for someone with clefts, especially right after surgeries. So I was lucky. I had 2 surgeries. I had one for my lip, one for my palate, and that was it. By the age of 2, around 2, I was done. I did not have to go through several surgeries like a lot of people these days do. And I don't feel like I missed out on anything. And learning to adapt is something that a person with clefts has to do, because throughout our lifetime things are constantly changing, especially with our dental work. When I was born, I had teeth come in perfectly. My first set of teeth looked perfect. My second set, however, one of my front teeth came in completely, almost turned around, but it was slightly like this and half in bone. It was actually fully in the bone, but once it turned, it was half in bone and half out. And this turning motion went so quickly, it went over a period of 3 or 4 weeks when I had braces. And I literally had to say tongue twisters every day to learn to adapt to the changing teeth and learn to speak so that I didn't miss a beat, so people could understand me. Yes, I still talk nasally. I still talk sometimes with a lisp, but I'm always working. And no matter how old I get, I will always continue to work to improve my speech so that it makes it easier for other people to understand me. And you have to understand, from the point of view of a person with a cleft, what I hear inside my head is totally different than what you hear, or what I hear when I listen to myself on a tape recorder. We have to practice talking into a camera or talking into a tape recorder if we really want to know what other people hear, because what we hear through our own ears, and this is with everyone, not just people with cleft lip and palates, your voice sounds totally different to you because you're hearing it from inside. And so the best thing you can do for your child is get your child a tape recorder. Get your child used to talking on a camera. And let them listen back and hear it. And let them practice their speech. This is a big deal because it really will help them later in life. Anyway, I've kind of gotten off track, but it's kind of segueing into my next talk, which I want to talk about speech and speech therapy. So I hope you got something useful out of this video. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a question in the comments. I will get back to you as soon as possible. If I get enough questions on the same issue, I'll be happy to do a video if you'd like me to. But if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell and give me a like. And please, please feel free to share these videos with other people that you know would benefit from them. Thank you and have a great day.